Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a comparison between a 2022 Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 392 with the Xtreme Recon package and a 2022 Ford Bronco Raptor. On a side note, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get straight into the review. Let's start things off by going under the hood of the Wrangler 392. So first off, we have a naturally aspirated 6.4 liter Hemi V8 that goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission. It's good for 470 horsepower and then 470 pound-feet of torque. Pretty crazy setup. You guys can see that engine is really crammed into the engine bay. You've got the hydro guide there at the top with the Rubicon 392. And so, yeah, this is kind of like the definition of an end of an era, because we're not going to see vehicles like this in the near future. You guys can also see the gold accenting there in the center. Now, moving on from that to the Bronco, I had to do a freeze frame with the Bronco, but anyways, we have a turbocharged 3-liter V6, goes through a 10-speed automatic transmission. It's going to have over 400 horsepower and over 400 pound-feet of torque. It's not going to be as much as the Wrangler, but it does have a cool anti-lag system, and it's probably going to get a little bit better fuel economy. And moving back to the Wrangler, you guys can see here with the front end of the Rubicon 392, this one is finished in Tuscadero pink, which is a crazy bright color, just like the Bronco that we have in today's comparison. And overall, I think it's just a great looking color from an aesthetic perspective. But you guys can see, moving in closer, we've got the 392 script there on the side of the hood, Rubicon there on the side of the hood as well. Notice you've got the gold around it. You've got the hydro guide there in the center, which kind of gives it just more of an aggressive appearance. And I think that, the Bronco Raptor should have something a little bit more aggressive like that. You guys can see here, you've got a completely different hood system than the Bronco. The Bronco just has like a regular car latch, whereas this has the latches on either side in normal Wrangler fashion. So I guess someone could kind of just walk up and steal your engine. Anyways, you can see the LED accent lights there. You've got the LED headlights with the accent lights around them. This one has the satin black front grille. You can see the camera there in the center. And then we've got the steel bumper group on this one. Notice that you've got the rivets. Had to knock it so you guys can see it's steel. Gold tow hooks as well. And yeah, just a great looking front end. Now, moving from that to the Bronco Raptor, you guys can see definitely an aggressive off-roader type appearance. You guys can see you've got the venting there in the center of the hood. Definitely still looks cool, just not like as aggressive as like a hood scoop, in my personal opinion. And notice you've got the Raptor logo there on the side so that everyone knows that you got the Raptor version, even though this thing is just aggressive enough to show that you have the Raptor. You have the trail guides there. And then we've got the LED lights that are finished in orange to match the marker lights that are here in the center of the grille. Giant Ford logo with the camera there in the center. Looks fantastic. You've got, again, hardcore off-road bumper, right? You've got the fog lights there at the bottom, which I feel like look nicer than what you have on the Jeep, my personal opinion. Giant exposed skid plate there on the front end, similar to what you have on the F-150 Raptor. And you guys can see just like the shocks and everything from a front end perspective looks super aggressive. You've got the live valve from Fox. We'll talk about those more in a moment. But there's a look at the front suspension, and yeah, definitely an aggressive appearance. And it just, overall, the front end of this vehicle is just super aggressive. Now, moving back to the Wrangler, this one has the Xtreme Recon package. So you've got 17-inch wheels, and wrapped around those you have 35s from the factory. And this is a package that you can get on a V6 Wrangler, a 2.0 Wrangler, and the 392 like this is. You can't get it on the 4xe yet. I think that they need to offer that on the 4xe because that would be great. But anyways, you guys can see kind of here in the wheel well. Can't see much with the suspension from this angle with the Wrangler, but you guys can see just how aggressive those 35s are. But you can see here with the front suspension, we do have a solid front axle. So the Bronco, as you guys saw, had independent front suspension, whereas we still have a solid front axle with the Wrangler. That is going to benefit it with crawling. Solid front axles are better from a crawling perspective, but it does make it so the Wrangler is kind of more of a single-purpose vehicle. It's, dedicated to crawling, because a solid front axle is great until you go over a big enough bump at high speeds, and then it transfers across the solid front axle, and you really feel it. So there is a deficit with that. And so just kind of understand that going into it if you're looking to purchase a Wrangler. Again, more single use. Anyways, you guys can see there with the fender flare extension, and then you've got the fender flares themselves that are painted in Tuscadero pink. You've got the mirrors here, which match the extensions, and then the door handles. This one's got the body painted hardtop. And then you guys can see here with the extensions there. Notice a lot more elements here on the Jeep are body painted than the Bronco. Kind of remember that. Now, I made a mistake in my 392 review. This just has Mopar shocks. They actually get rid of the Fox shocks for the Xtreme Recon package. Disappointing, but that's just reality. Moving back over to the Bronco now that we've talked about the shocks, you guys can see we've got 17-inch wheels. They're beadlock capable just like the Jeeps. But we've got 37s mounted on them, so we do have a little bit more tire, and that is going to benefit you, right, from a ground clearance perspective, but also more sidewall is going to make it so that driving off-road is going to be a little bit more comfortable. Notice the fender flares are massive, just like on the Wrangler, actually. Not body painted, though. And then I love that accent piece there. It just looks super aggressive. You've got the marker light here in the mirror. That's why it's orange and red, is that's actually the fourth or fifth marker light, depending on if you're going left to right or right to left. You've got the off-road side steps there that also doubles like a rock rail. And then you guys can see you've got that portion there on the back fender flare that you can take off because Ford says that it's going to get damaged a bunch. So they're like, yep, we'll just make it so it's removable, so it's easily repairable. You can see the rear tire and wheel setup. So we got to talk about the live valve. So the live valve from Fox, an amazing system. And actually, we're going back to the Jeep first, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more. So first off, going back to the Jeep. Sorry about that, by the way, guys. You can see the key fob here. Got the Jeep logo there on the back, remote start, all that fun stuff. And you guys can see with the lights here, we've got the LEDs at the back with the Jeep. Definitely a distinctive look. And then we do have the reinforcement there to be able to hold the 35 on it. The regular tailgate can't do that. And then you guys can see the backup camera right there mounted in the center of the spare. Notice we've got the gold recovery hook there at the bottom. Now opening it up, it's definitely heavy, but it's easy to do in one motion. But it is a heavier tailgate to open up. And then you guys can see the window, popping that up. And storage space here on the back of the Jeep's great. Got the Alpine sound system, which I can say as an owner, it is a really solid sound system, especially the subwoofer. It definitely gets the beats going. You've got all of that to hold the different bolts and everything for the top if you take that off. And yeah, overall, it's practical from a rear perspective. And you guys will notice with the Bronco Raptor, it's just as practical from a storage space perspective. So you're not really gaining or losing anything from that perspective with either vehicle. And then you got the window, which you can just easily shut down. And then again, just know the with 35 is pretty heavy, basically closing that. And then here's kind of like your full view of the rear, which, again, I think it's just a really good, aggressive looking vehicle. And then you guys can see the exhaust tips poking out the back. Definitely a nice sound from the V8. Now, going back to the Bronco Raptor and kind of talking about the live valve, this system means that with the Bronco Raptor, you're going to be able to do a lot with it from an off-road perspective, high speed and crawling. You guys can see the taillights here, which are custom with the Bronco Raptor. Notice we have reinforcement to be able to carry that 37-inch tire. And then you've got the marker lights here in the center, just above the spare tire. And again, definitely just crazy to see that setup on an SUV from the factory. You see the camera there in the center. And then you got the Raptor logo just down below. And again, like I said, with the tailgate for the Bronco, it's got hydraulic struts to help like assist with opening, but it's like two parts to open it up. So just kind of understand that. And then going back to the Wrangler, you guys can see here from an interior perspective, you've got the padding and the stitching here on the side. And you guys will notice that this isn't necessarily the nicest materials, but they have it that way because you can spray off the entire interior with both vehicles, I believe. The Bronco Raptor is an interior that you guys will see is something that will get dirtier easier than the Jeep, if that makes it. Will be harder to clean, rather. You can see the vents there in the center, window controls as well, and the outlet and all that fun stuff down below. And then I do have the insulation here at the top with my Wrangler. Recommend that. You can get the same thing with the Bronco hardtop, where you've got insulation. Just if you're going to get a vehicle like this, do it. It helps out with sound deadening and helps with keeping the cabin more regulated from a temperature perspective. Popping back over here to the Bronco Raptor, you guys can see the grab handle there on the side, and then the back of the seat. Definitely cool. It's got that utilitarian look. Now, I love the look of these seats. They look fantastic with the leather and the Alcantara and the cloth inserts, and the orange and the blue. Looks fantastic. But imagine if you got a bunch of sand and mud and everything, those seats would be a pain to clean compared to the seats you have in the Wrangler. So I guess just take that into account if you're looking at getting that interior on the Bronco Raptor. You guys can see the Bronco logo right there. And then here's a quick look at the passenger area at the front. So you guys can see, again, the code orange everywhere. You've got the Bronco logo there at the top of the glove box. And then you can see the Raptor logo there on the floor mats. And then the front passenger seat, again, more aggressive with the bolstering. They look fantastic, and they're really comfortable to sit in as well. So it's definitely cool. Popping over here to the front of the Jeep now. You guys can see the door panel here again with the padding and the stitching all across, and then you guys can see the mirrors, which do have blind spot monitoring. Got your mirror adjustments, door lock and unlock, and then here are the front seats. So they say Rubicon 392, and again, these seats don't look as beautiful as what you have on the Bronco Raptor, but the utility of these seats is you guys can see manually adjustables. You don't have to worry about anything breaking on the seats or really getting the seats super dirty if you take it off-road and have the top off, doors off, all that kind of stuff, because you can just hose down the seats and, stuff will just come off. You'll be able to wipe them down very easily. So that is a benefit to having seats like that again, aren't necessarily as pretty. Now, moving to the rest of the interior here with the Wrangler. Love the startup animation, how it says 392. Definitely a cool little touch. You guys can see here with the steering wheel itself, you've got leather there at the top and the bottom with the contrasted stitching there on the center. Notice perforated leather on the sides. You get a little bit of a better grip as well. You guys can see paddle shifters there on the back for the 8-speed automatic. And notice this does have adaptive cruise control as well as regular cruise controls for center stack, voice command controls, all the normal practical stuff. There are radio controls in the back of the steering wheel. And I definitely like the setup with the steering wheel in terms of the aesthetics of it, and the feel of it as well is great. Now here is the center gauge cluster. You guys can see you've got RPMs on the left side right there, speed over on the right side in analog format. And then you can see the center gauge cluster here, or the center part of the gauge cluster is a screen. You can scroll through a few different menus. And those of you that watch my channel, I still haven't lowered the PSI on my tires. I need to. I keep forgetting about it. I've been so busy, but I need to definitely do that. Anyways, you can see here with the rest of the setup, you can see like fuel economy, all that. I've still been averaging like mid-13s from a fuel economy perspective. If you guys are wondering. So it's actually not horrible, considering that it has a 4.56 axle ratio and a big naturally aspirated V8. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's definitely cool that I've been able to get that. Now here's a center infotainment system. You guys can see with the camera system, you do get the front camera and the rear camera, no 360 camera, bird's eye view. I will mention, because in the Bronco, it's going to be a little bit quicker. That does have a 360 camera system. So from a camera system perspective, the Bronco does have an edge over the Jeep because you've got that full 360 view. But the rest of the infotainment system has a great response time. And the Bronco also has a bigger infotainment system, as you guys will see, 12-inch display. So that's another benefit to the Broncos. The screen is just bigger than what you have with the Jeep. And then you guys can see we've got the off-road pages here. Down below, you've got analog controls for the infotainment system, heated seats, exhaust valve. There's, recirculate that looks like a little Jeep. There's off-road cruise control, all that. And you can hear a significant difference with the valves closed or open with the Wrangler. And then you guys can see the off-road pages here, kind of the different information that this shows. So it basically just makes it so that it's easier to see different information, especially if you're in an off-road situation, right? So you know exactly what's happening with your Jeep so that you can make the best possible educated decision while off-roading, right? Don't want to crash an $80,000 vehicle. Down below, you can see the analog controls for like the windows. You've got the charging port, 12 volt, all that fun stuff, auxiliary switches right there. And then you guys can see here, we've got the off-road plus, which is kind of like your off-road mode for the Jeep, right, to make things a little bit easier. And then you can see you've got the sway bar disconnect, front and rear lockers as well for the Jeep. So something that comes with the Rubicon, being in the Rubicon 392, also has that driveline select and then transmission selector. This does not have two-wheel drive. It's got four-wheel auto, four-wheel high part-time, and then four-wheel low. So there is no two-wheel drive with the Wrangler. And then you guys can see the storage space there with the gear, or not the gear, sorry, rather the brake. Losing my mind here. Center console, storage space is good in the center console, but the glove box, it's pretty tight. I will say that, if I'm being completely honest. You got the grab handle there And then you guys can see the dark metallic gray trim there on the front of the dash, which I think looks great. Definitely nicer than the Rubicon Red. It's kind of a little bit more low-key. And then you can see here with the insulation there at the top. And being a hard top, it's easy to take off the front two panels. The back, you do have to use tools. But it's not cumbersome at all. Now, finishing things off with the Bronco. Now we are, finally. Took a second. You guys can see here, we've got the Ford Performance logo, and then you can see with the front seats, you've got the Code Orange and the blue, which again, I just think looks so cool. These seats are really aggressive, and the seat belts also match. So there is definitely more pizzazz to this interior. It pops out way more. So if you want a more flashy interior, Bronco Raptor gives you that. You got the light controls there, and then you can see the carbon fiber. So again, they've gone all out with the interior. Blind spot monitoring there for the mirror, and then you can see again with the stitching there on the dash. And again, with in contrast, the blue looks pretty cool, right? With all the materials and textures. And then you can see that the steering wheel there, you've got the Code Orange there at the top with the marker, carbon fiber at the bottom, contrast stitching. You've got giant paddles. Those are the same paddles that are in the Ford GT or the GT 500 Mustang. Has all the same practical stuff like, adaptive cruise control and all that. Again, here's the 12-inch display. And you guys can see the analog controls down below for the radio, climate controls, heated seats, all that fun stuff. And you can see the shifter's got more carbon fiber on it. And then this does have two-wheel drive. It's got two-wheel drive, four-wheel low, four-wheel auto, and four-wheel high. It's got a Baja mode as well that has an anti-lag system, which is pretty cool with the GOAT modes. So that it keeps the turbo spooled. Pretty cool technology. Window controls are in the center. There you guys can see the center console. It's about as small as the Jeeps. It's the best way to put it. Not a lot of storage space in either of these vehicles from a center console perspective. And then you guys can see you've got the stabilizer bar, disconnect, front and rear lockers, trail turn assist, stability control. So it's pretty equal from that perspective with the Jeep with the crawling tech, right? 6 auxiliary switches instead of 4, so it does have an extra one on top of what the Jeep has. You guys can see the bolstering on it. So just to quickly cap off, here is my personal opinion. This is someone who owns a Rubicon 392. I think the Bronco Raptor has a little bit more utility because, again, it's got that high-speed tech with the shocks and with the suspension, having independent front suspension. This is going to be able to handle high-speed stuff, jumps, all that kind of stuff. And then it also has the crawling stuff, the stabilizer bar disconnect, the front and rear lockers, 37s, all that kind of stuff. So this thing will be an amazing crawler. The Wrangler is an amazing crawler. It has a ton of power, but it doesn't have the shocks or the suspension to be able to do the high-speed stuff as good as the Bronco Raptor. So, yeah, take that for what it is, and that is our quick comparison with both of the vehicles.